Hello and welcome. In this video lecture, we will be talking about C header files. Now header file is a file with the extension .h which contains C function declarations and macro definitions to be shared between several source files. Okay, so we can write that file with extension .h. Okay, plan is okay, and this file contains C function declarations and macros. In the previous video, we have already studied about C macros. So if you have any confusion, you can go back and see the previous video. Now these definitions, these functions or macro definitions, these macro definitions are shared between several source files. Now we all have used standard input-output .h header file, stdio.h header file in various programs, and apart from that the same header file is shared between different C source codes, as well as one source code can contain multiple header files. So there could be two types of header files. The first is the file that the programmer writes. Okay, programmer, and another is which comes with the compiler itself, compiler or system. Okay, so there could be two types of header files. One a programmer can write, another is compiler based or system based. Now whenever we want to have a header file in our program, the C preprocessing directive is used. We have already studied about preprocessing directive in C. Processing directive in C. For the revision purpose, I am just writing it is #include. Okay, so I'm sure you must have written in every program #include stdio.h header file, which comes along with the C compiler. Now including a header file in our source program is just equal to copying the content of the header file, but we do not copy and paste the content. Okay, because it will create it is error prone. Maybe while copying the content you delete or add something into the source code, and it is not good idea to copy the content of header file in your source code, because we generally use multiple header files. So it will be very tedious job to copy and paste from different header files, and they can be error prone. So the simple practice is that we keep all the constant, macros, system-wide global variables, function prototypes in the header files, and include that header file whenever it is required, like our basic input-output functions of normal C program, like printf, scanf, file read, file open, fopen, fclose, fread, fwrite. The functions which we have earlier used, all these functions are already defined in the standard input-output header file. So that means the line of codes are written over there. We do not copy the code, we simply include that in our program and in the source program, and then whenever required we simply call that function. So let us see what will be the syntax of both types of the header files, the programmer generated or the compiler generated or compiler based. So in case of the compiler, okay, this is programmer based. I will write here compiler based and here the programmer based. So the compiler based, I should not repeat, you must be aware of, that is hash include, and then here inside this symbol we write the file. Okay, for standard input output we have already used stdio.h, standard library.h, stdlib, string header file, string.h. These are typical common system or compiler based header files. So this is the syntax for including the compiler based. What if you have a programmer generated or user generated header file? Suppose we have written a function and I do not want to copy the whole function part, I just simply want to call it whenever it is required. So what I can do, I can save that function in my system generated or program generated, not system, sorry, programmer generated header file with any name of my chosen priority I will write, and that header file I can call in my source program. So in order to call, the syntax will be again processing directive will be hash include. That will be always used whenever we need to include header files, standard libraries or macros. In macros we also use define. Now for this we need to, please look carefully, in system generated we have used this symbol. Now for personal or for programmer generated we write like this. Now here this file can be, let's say my file is soumya.h. if I have created a header file, so I will be writing this file name, double quotes will be used. This is the form to use a header file of your own program, which is somewhere defining, which is present in the current directory where we are actually writing our source code. Okay, so let us test this with one example set that I will try to write manually header file, some code, and then I will try to include that in another source code, in the main source code, and we try to run that it works well or not. Okay, so the idea is that I will be having one header file which I will be writing, and in main program I'll try to include that header file. So here is one file which I have created with the name sum.h. So remember, whenever you want, you can always have the file from this. Why this option is not working? Let me see. Okay, so let me show you again. I think system was not working. So we can simply, if you are working with online compiler, so you can simply go here and you can write a new file, and let's say I create a sum.h. Okay, this is my header file. Now in this header file, what I believe that it should contain one function that takes two integer numbers and represents the or returns the sum. Okay, so here it is. We have written one function, integer sum, and which takes two integer a and b, and it simply returns a plus b. Okay, simple line of code. This is the body of my header file. Okay, now I'll go into my main source code. Now remember, this is the system or compiler based header file which we have earlier used, and in my main body we have written that we have three integer values a, b and s will be the sum, and we are going to print it. Now, as I told you in the video earlier, that when there is a programmer generated header file, then we use these double quotes to include our header file. This is our header file, sum.h. Now remember, when we write this line of codes, actually what is happening before compilation of this source code, what happening, the pre-processor directive directs, or it says that you need to replace the content. The content, what content should be replaced? In actual line of code, what is happening after the inclusion? First of all, standard input output header file is included. That means all the functions, all the body of this header file is pasted here. That means that is happening itself by the compiler. And then further, the line of code which is written over here, the definition of function of summation, it is being actually replaced over here in this line where header file created by us is there. And then further the main program will execute. Okay, so I believe when I execute it, this function, this particular program will demand the value of a and b, and once we provide, it will return a sum, and the sum will be calculated through the function defined in the header file. So let's run it, and it is asking for the value of a and b. Let's say I have 4 and 6, so I'm expecting 10 as output, and this output is being resulted on the basis of the function which is written in my header file. Now what you people can do, you have, if suppose you have already created some good functions, so you can keep those functions with the name in your local directory, and once you are writing a source code which can utilize those functions, then you can just simply include that as a header file in your program. You need not to define the function or write the function again and again. Thank you for watching.